Glenn Metz Organization, Calliope Projects, New Orleans.
The gang stuff. There was never no Metz gang. They created a Metz gang to create the organized crime. So let's get that understood. There was never no Metz gang. He just took people and pieced them together because they was affiliated with each other and said, well, hey, this your enforcers, this your brains, y'all two are the kingpin, queenpin, whatever you want to call it, and so we can hit you with the RICO statute. Oh, we can't have we're gonna get the RICO, we're gonna hit them with organized crime, we're gonna hit them with this, we're gonna hit them with that. Yeah, because you couldn't get them individually. You couldn't take him to trial, you couldn't take Danielle to trial, you couldn't take this one to trial, you couldn't take that one to trial. You had to take them as a group, That's why they called it a gang, but it was never a gang, but that was the way they got it.
Today, we'll be talking about the Glenn Metz Organization, a notorious drug ring that operated in the New Orleans metropolitan area from 1985 to mid-1992.
Everything that we've heard about the Glenn Metz gang has come either from law enforcement, the government, or street gossip. But we haven't heard about the Glenn Metz gang from somebody who was actually there. So, what should people know about the Glenn Metz gang?
Okay, the Glenn Metz Organization or gang was really what the government manufactured in their investigation of Glenn Metz drugs, distribution of drugs. There was no such thing as a Glenn Metz gang. Glenn Metz participated in a degree of distribution of cocaine. And in that distribution, he distributed drugs to multiple people who, over a course of time, caught their own cases. But they testified at our trial that they got their drugs from either Glenn, whether they were Colombians, they were Cubans, a guy named Rico, a guy named Ivan Gonzalez, Eliseo Melendez. These were drug dealers from foreign drug dealers, Colombians and Cubans, who testified that they supplied Glenn Metz. And others testified that they received drugs from Glenn Metz. But they identified Glenn's wife, Danielle. A couple of them identified Glenn's brother as either picking up money or something to that degree. And basically, that was what was really a drug conspiracy. The government made it into a drug gang. The reason they made it into a drug gang is because they wanted to include myself, Gerald Elwood. They wanted to include General Meatball Arthur, and they wanted to include Marlo Helmstetter.
Glenn Metz and his brother Cordell Jethro Metz founded the Metz Gang, a notorious drug ring that operated in the New Orleans metropolitan area from 1985 to mid-1992. During this time, the gang distributed approximately 1,000 kilograms of cocaine and committed several violent crimes, including murders and attempted murders. In 1993, Glenn Metz, his wife Danielle Metz, and several henchmen were indicted on 22 counts related to the narcotics conspiracy. They were found guilty and received lengthy prison sentences. Glenn Metz was sentenced to life in prison. In 2016, Danielle Metz's life sentence was commuted by President Barack Obama.
If you read any of it, you're going to see that they allege that Glenn Metz ordered this murder of Samuel Lee Clay, which everybody knows is Sam Scully. The same Sam Scully that I spoke about earlier, wherein I said that a war was going on in the uptown area with the Sam Scully, Terrell Sterling, which manufactured it all the way into what you call like 18. Well, they now allege in the federal indictment that was started by Glenn Metz having Sam Scully murdered in 1987. Now, this is the reason behind that was that, as I explained, that there was no other way to bring up those other murders in the state, because once it was dismissed in the state, it was over with.
In 1987, the emergence of crack cocaine in New Orleans resulted in a wave of crime that was as chaotic and erratic as the drug itself. With dealers being arrested or killed, new ones quickly replaced them on street corners. Alliances were formed and broke in for each big sale, and profits were short-lived due to the rapid onset of addiction. In the midst of this violence, Glenn Metz's gang rose to become the city's first organized drug syndicate after the demise of Sam Scully, Clay's crew in the Calliope projects. Metz's gang held a tight grip on the narcotics trade in several public housing complexes since 1985, using violence to eliminate any competition. However, in the early 1990s, the New Orleans Police Department began a crackdown on gangs and managed to apprehend more than 150 members and enforcers. In 1992, Derek Mahone, a top enforcer for the gang and a prisoner at the Louisiana Training Institute in Monroe, escaped from custody. During his time on the run, he was apprehended and subsequently released 6 times, with 4 of those instances being related to weapons charges. The following year, in Algiers, Derek was the target of a violent attack that nearly claimed his life. As reported by the Times-Picayune, 3 assailants armed with submachine guns fired upon Derek in a parking lot, striking him with bullets a total of 17 times. In January 1993, federal authorities followed a series of tips in rural Mississippi, ultimately leading to the capture of Danielle Metz, the last remaining fugitive, at an apartment complex in Jackson. According to a deputy marshal, information had led U.S. Marshals to Yazoo City, where several residents recognized photographs of Metz. It appeared that Metz had connections in Yazoo County. On December 15, 1993, Metz was convicted of several charges, including conspiracy to possess and distribute cocaine, continuing criminal enterprise, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, and laundering of monetary instruments. The judge imposed a mandatory life sentence in prison.
Gennaro Arthur, better known as Meatball, is one of the most notorious names in uptown New Orleans, if not the entire New Orleans. However, very little has been said about Arthur the man, and when it comes to myths and folklore, Arthur's name has been at the forefront of many of those myths.
I mean, there's a lot of myths put it on top of his head. You know, a lot of things that he was charged for in the streets, he didn't really do. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do a lot of those things. And I'm not saying that just because of the family ties. I'm pretty much saying it because it's real. You know, I know a lot of things about Meatball. I remember one of the things about Meatball that kind of stuck to people and it kind of went around and people copycatted it was they say that Meatball used to dress like a woman and rob people or even kill people. And that was far from the truth as possible. You know, the reason that he wore dress, it was a joke. It was him and a few of his homies, you know, they were dressed up like women. And it was for Halloween. And they pretty much just were bullshitting around. But, of course, they had guns on.
Yeah.
I mean, they are street dudes, you know. So people just attributed that to, oh, they're going to rob somebody and kill somebody dressed like a woman. And that story stuck. And even to this day, everybody say that about it.
In 1992, enforcers Gennaro Meatball Arthur and Gerald Elwood were arrested and indicted with 10 other members for murder and cocaine distribution. Arthur, who was suspected of killing 70 people, was arrested in a Seattle restaurant where he was hiding out as a dishwasher. Marshals Service said Arthur is believed to have been hiding out in Seattle for 2 or 3 years. In his role as an enforcer, marshals say Arthur is believed to have machine-gunned to death 3 people and wounded 2 others in the so-called Deer Heart Expressway ambush in 1990. On another occasion, marshals claim Arthur confronted a government witness in a housing project and machine-gunned the man in the legs, leaving him as an example to others who might consider testifying against the Metz group. Law enforcement officials also believe Arthur was the trigger man in the Scully Clay murder, although they were never able to get any sound evidence on him about that case, which remains unsolved to date.